Welcome to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast, episode 41.
Welcome to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast with your host, Jack Mountain Bushcraft School founder and Master Main Guide, Tim Smith.
I'm your host, Tim Smith. I'm a registered Master Main Guide, and in 1999 I founded the Jack Mountain Bushcraft School. We help people become more skilled, more knowledgeable, more experienced, and more confident outdoors by using traditional skills, a few simple tools, and field-based experience. Whether you're looking to go from city slicker to competent outdoor professional, want to experience a remote expedition, or just want to learn a few new outdoor skills, we've got you covered. You can check out the show notes to this and all of our podcasts at blog.jackmtn.com. When you're there, click on the podcast button. And if you enjoy the show, please leave us a review on iTunes. Lastly, the best way to keep up with our programs and trips is to join our email newsletter, and you can do that at jmbnews.com.
Tim Smith here, and welcome back to another episode of the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast. We haven't recorded one for a couple of weeks because we've been busy in the field running the spring 2018 Wilderness Bushcraft Semester. Tonight is our final night. Tomorrow we turn everybody loose and send them back into the world. So I'm sitting down here with Christopher Russell as usual. We've also got a couple of guys from the course. We've got Tom. How are we doing tonight, Tom?
Doing well, thanks.
And James. How are you tonight, James?
Very delightful.
Very delightful. That sounds delightful.
James in a nutshell.
That's James in a nutshell. So what we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to do a quick semester wrap-up, talk about some interesting things that happened during the course. We just returned from a 9-day final canoe trip. We're going to talk about that. And we've got a couple newly minted Journeyman Guide Certificate holders here. And we're going to talk about that, about the process. We revamped everything this spring, built the program over again from scratch, changed how we do all the documentation. So we're going to briefly touch on that. So, so the end of 9 long weeks, right?
Yep.
We spent the first 3 on snowshoes. What's the date?
Can we not think about that ever again?
June 14th. We spent the first, April 15 to the first week in May on snowshoes. Oh, yeah. Like 6 feet of snow on the road, driving in and out on a snowmobile.
That's right.
And that seems like 100 years ago at this point, doesn't it?
It was a long time ago.
I always jokingly say about the semester, like in some ways it seems like it's over in the blink of an eye, and in other ways it seems like you're here for 100 years.
Yeah.
So, and when you're slogging all your gear up and down the hill hauling a sled in the beginning of May, you're like, wow, this is 100 years.
Right.
Or when you're sitting out and there's 80 million black flies buzzing you, it seems like 100 years.
That's right.
We're also sitting here tonight enjoying some of the fruits of our labor. I think it was, 4 weeks ago we put up a couple gallons of country wine, as we like to call what we make around here, and we're enjoying a glass of the old Jack Mountain ankle breaker wine, and there is a story behind that someone did drink some once, step in a hole, and actually break their ankle. So it's not just a clever name. So, and it's truly glorious.
It's delightful.
It's pretty glorious.
It's delightful.
Anyway, so let's talk. Last trip we went about 60 miles. We spread it out, super low water. So you guys all got to be really proficient at picking routes at super low water. And really the water wasn't, in most of the river travel, the water wasn't deep enough to sink a paddle blade completely in the water. So we were poling almost the entire river trip. And correct me if I'm wrong, but before you guys came up here, you had never poled a canoe before, right?
That's right.
And there you were, just breaking all the rules, standing up in a canoe, just like you're not supposed to.
Right.
Pushing off on the bottom with a stick, right? So thoughts on poling now that you've got quite a few miles under your belt. And I would say these guys are definitely very accomplished at canoe poling at this point. They totally get it. So compared to paddling, you like it, you hate it, like never want to see a canoe pole again?
Compared to paddling, I like it actually a little bit more, and I feel like got kind of a superpower to enable me to go upstream as well as downstream.
It is a superpower.
Yeah.
It is. Right.
I didn't think that was possible ever. Like, how would you go upstream? Why would you go upstream? But
Before logging roads and outboard motors, that was the only way.
That's right.
right.
I was encouraged because in New Mexico, where I planned to be, a lot of the water looks like what we went over during the summer. And
Half a mile wide and an inch deep.
that's right. We're 8 inches, 12 inches deep. And
Yeah,
so I'm excited.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but we're talking about low water, and I think it was at what, like 250?
250 the Aroostook River
Yeah.
cubic feet per second, as measured by the Department of the USGS, whatever that is.
Yeah, and the average up here is 500?
Yeah, 500 is
500?
average about this time of
Yeah.
year, so super low. Like,
Yeah.
we had incredibly high spring floods this year, and then it didn't rain for 7 weeks. So, like, all the snow ran off, everything ran off, all that water's out in the ocean now. And so, ironically, at the beginning of the course, we couldn't canoe because the water was too high for several weeks, so we couldn't go anywhere too exotic because everything was just flooded out. So, just, the crazy variability of water levels.
And then to add to the irony of the situation, we pulled out yesterday, got all the canoes up here, and then the skies opened up for the last 24 hours. It's been raining on and off. So
The river's come up 50 cubic feet per
Yes.
second.
Yeah,
it's over 300 right now. 250 yesterday, it's over 300 now.
That's crazy.
Which that little bit of a pillow doesn't sound like much, but
Yeah.
that would have made our river travel so much easier. All the gravel bars would have been underwater, all those places where there was no way through, or just one place through and you're just scratching, you could have made it through there. So
I don't know, but we really did learn a lot about how to read the river, how to read the water.
definitely.
That was my favorite game.
Yeah.
When the water got extra shallow, I'm like, all right, here's my time to have fun.
Let's find a way.
Gotta
through.
focus. I mean, the whole trip was fun, of course. But
You said that Hungry Hippos was your favorite game. Now it's this.
Liar!
Why must you turn the guide shack into a house of lies? Yeah, no, I'm a strong believer that in order to become proficient poling a canoe, you got to do a really low water trip. Absolutely. Because learning to see where the water is, see how it breaks like side to side, all those things, see where the little channels are, the downstream V's and such, like that same skill that you learn to read the river and to find the water will serve you well if you're paddling whitewater. You're looking for those smooth tongues of water going through the rips and stuff. That's the deepest, smoothest. So it serves you well at super low water. It serves you well at high water. It's a foundational canoe skill in my estimation. And you guys all nailed it. So that's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's something, it has to happen sooner or later. And luckily it happened now. So while it would have been easier, perhaps, and more leisurely if we had 1,000 cubic feet per second, just sit there and kind of float down the river at 6 miles an hour without doing any work, you learn more. We always learn more when the conditions are challenging, right? No challenge, no hardship, little learning.
Right.
Great challenge, big hardship, lots of learning. And as this is an educational program, we weren't out just for a joyride. I think that's, I'll put it in the win column.
Oh yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah.
Learned a lot. Absolutely.
Not too molested by flies. We actually, when we got back yesterday, I posted a photo saying that we were out on a 9-day trip and the flies weren't too bad. And a guy instantly said, "What kind of bug dope do you use?" And I don't use any. I don't think, did anybody use any on this trip?
I just don't shower.
Yeah. Christopher coats his skin in filth.
Yeah. Well, the answer to the what kind of bug dope would be, oh, no, thanks. I make my own.
No, we opted, and I think it's a better option in the long run to go with a physical barrier, right? Long pants, long sleeves, big hat, maybe bug net, maybe bandana, and when we're in camp, smoky campfire, and we brought smudge pots with us. So Can you guys tell our listening audience out there in podcast land, what's a smudge pot?
Smudge pot is basically a tin of like a big can or pot with holes punched into it, and we have coals or some sort of hot source in the bottom, and we put in pine boughs or any sort of greenery and smother it until it produces heaps of smoke. and thus repelling the bugs.
Yeah, a traveling smoke machine, right?
Basically.
So we've got them on little chains, so when they start to get a little low, you swing them around, force air in, they get hot. But yeah, in camp at any one time, we would have a smoky campfire and 3 smudge pots going. So while I don't smoke, I've been secondhand smoking the equivalent of like 50 cartons of cigarettes a day for the last 2 weeks.
I like
and
when
my
we have
lung
them.
feels great.
I like when we have them because anytime I walk into a place where they are, I feel like I'm walking onto like a rock concert stage, and it makes me feel really good.
Oh, it's true.
Like in the back of my head, I hear like the opening lines to a guitar solo, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is what it's all about.
I feel more like I've just completed my set and I'm coming back on stage for the encore.
Ooh, that's better.
Yeah. And, of course, my encore song, as you guys know, Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus.
I don't. How does that one go? It's I put my hands up.
Yeah, they're playing my
They're
song.
playing my
I'm
song.
gonna start singing bad country songs.
So, on the canoe expedition, on the final trip, we always do a solo where people will go out and spend 2 nights and 1 full day and half of another day, but 2 nights out on their own, kind of reflecting on the journey that they've been on, both on the trip and on the course in general, right? And I'll frame it by saying it's like, the forest welcoming you home now that you're a little bit of a different person because you know a lot more about the forest than when you first went out. Like, you can read the weather and tell what that's going to do by looking at the sky. You know all the trees, you know all the plants, you can have a safe little fire that you start with a bow drill. All these things that sort of are the skills that allowed our ancestors to thrive before the era of iPhones and podcasts and whatever else. And when I'm feeling truly evil, I realize that the last song that I'll hum or something will be stuck in people's heads for that entire period of time. So when I'm feeling truly evil, I'll sing a bar or two of something like Party in the USA, and then that'll be stuck in people's heads for the entire solo experience.
You always do that. You always
No,
do
but it's
that.
not always that
You
song.
always feel easy.
So
I
you're
always feel
saying you
evil.
always feel truly evil.
But it's not always that song. It's,
Okay.
Sometimes it's,
It's a different flavor of evil.
Could be, yes.
Ooh,
Different flavor.
different flavor of evil. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, so one of our members who isn't here right now, he's sleeping because he's very tired because he forgot to bring his paddle with him on the final trip. So we stayed at our first campsite for 2 nights, and we found an old board floating in the lake, and he proceeded to rough it out with his axe. And I think it probably weighed around 9 pounds when it was done.
25 when it was in the
when it was
water.
wet.
The 25-pound paddle.
When it was waterlogged, it was hefty.
So yeah, pain is a great teacher, as is experience. So the odds after him carting that paddle down, he became really adept at poling.
You want to touch it.
Most of the way.
So, but pain and experience both being great teachers, the odds of him ever forgetting a paddle again are somewhere less than 1%, right? Because man,
That's a
That was rough.
yeah,
That was
and he'll probably have to have like plastic surgery on his hands during the water blisters.
Yep.
Anyway, that was an interesting. That was an interesting thing. So, yeah, about the solos, any big revelations come to you on the solo? Not necessarily like a big, life-changing thing, but any sort of cool thing that you learned when you were out on those?
Well, the thing that came to me about it was all this stuff is excellent, and this is a teaching environment, and really enjoyed all of the time that I spent here. But it needs, the context is where you going to practice. So when you take this home, that's kind of your job, taking it home and doing this when you get home and making it part of your life. So that's the revelation I had.
Anything for you, James?
Um,
And no is an acceptable answer. You say no. No, Tim, there was nothing.
No, I guess like the the realization that, I don't know, for me, like while I was there, I picked myself a little salad of little things I foraged, and when I cut myself pretty deep.
Yeah, tell us that story.
Okay, when I was bow drilling, well, the notch was a little off the center, so thought I would choke up on my knife, very safely. I know how to do this. Just adjust the notch and carve a bit, and it breaks through the board, travels through space and time into my leg about a 1/2 inch deep, and I was totally shocked. I dropped everything grabbed my leg with both hands and just like hugged it and like thinking, is this happening? Oh yeah. Oh, there's the pain. Oh, this is real, man. And I let go of my hands for a second. Blood drips all the way down to my like socks, and I'm just like, fuck. But
well, we just changed the. No, it's okay. We just put. That's all right.
Go ahead.
Keeps it honest.
Okay. Jeez. But that led me to what am I going to do, and I felt like I didn't know what to do, which was to keep pressure on and find like usnea or. To the best of what I had, I didn't have any first aid kit. Otherwise, I would go for that first. But I went for what I had, which was the balsam first sap and the usnea lichen, and I combined those together and duct taped my wound. And then the night after, I felt perfectly fine. I could walk well, and that was a powerful experience for me.
Yeah, getting hurt's always a slap in the face, right?
Yeah.
It's always like you think you're so cool, and then you drive a knife into your leg, and you're like, well, maybe I'm not that cool.
But as a testament,
2 hours in.
as a testament to James's personality up here, when he came back to sort of the base camp where Tim, Ben, and I were waiting, and we look upriver, and there's a guy happily floating down, waving to us, and we're like, I wonder why he's coming back. And he walks up and is like, I stabbed myself. And he was so happy. He was so happy about it. It was great. It was that kind of personality is hard to find, and it's been great having that on this course.
I agree.
Because I'd have been real angry. I wouldn't have been as joyous about the experience.
That's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I got back yesterday from our trip, and this morning went over the newly published for this course Journeyman workbook, and I'm happy to say these guys are officially certified Jack Mountain Journeyman Guides.
Jack Mountaineers?
No.
Mouseketeers. Jack Mouseketeers.
Jack Mouseketeers.
Can our theme song be Party in the USA?
Yes.
No.
Yes,
No.
it can. Party in Aroostook County.
Woo!
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry.
So, what that represents is a massive amount of work that these guys accomplished over the course of the semester, and it's all documented, written up. There was a lot of documentation, a lot of academic work, a lot of testing to get you guys to where you are. And just thoughts on that process.
So it was very comprehensive and very organized, and very purposeful. Succinct? I don't know. I feel like I keep throwing out a bunch of adjectives without really explaining anything. What it was is it was a roadmap for developing a level of proficiency that would keep you operating well in an environment with little infrastructure.
Yeah.
And it's an emphasis because when you think about bushcraft, when you think about living this way, what we have done is broken the surface on it, and then it gives you a roadmap to take home and continue your own education. Because really, that's what it's about. What you've given us is the ability to do this somewhere else and take it as deep as we can personally.
Yeah. For me, it was a very grateful thing that how it's structured is that we dive into so many different topics and skills, and just enough to spark potentially an interest in planting a seed in each different subject, and depending on the individual, if they want to nourish that seed to its fullest capacity. I really felt that was it's a good way to go.
So to that, though, just to continue on James's thought, I'd like to hear from you guys if there was, as you mentioned, seeds. Was there a particular one for either of you that kind of you did it and we went sort of, a wide touch on it, and you guys want to go really deeper? Was there something that came from this semester that you're super interested in now?
Oh yeah, quite a few.
Would you like to tell us?
Yeah, sure.
It's audio, so the audience can't read the cartoon bubbles over your head.
It's happening. Well, I guess plain ID and fermentation, 2 big ones.
Yeah, we do a big fermented food thing, and as I said, we're enjoying some fermented wine right now. And
Oh yeah.
looking at a bunch of jars of sauerkraut and spicy sauerkraut and kombucha.
They are excellent.
The whole 9 yards. So yeah, anything jump out at you that you're like, this is something I'm really interested in?
Yeah, some things that work really close together. So I was in the Marine Corps for a while and felt like I was an accomplished with land navigation. And transferring that over into the civilian world was challenging for me. I was a little overconfident, plus it was a lot longer ago than I had realized. And constellations, those 2 things really impressed me. But all of it, just wood axe work, knife work, the canoeing was great. Plant identification was really
Was there, so the opposite question, and you kind of mentioned struggling with map and compass, was there something for either of you that you really struggled with? And maybe, I'm just curious if there was something that, you did it and you did it well, but maybe it's not something that you found super interesting or really struggled with?
I think I would have to think about that one.
Okay.
But for struggling, I think I could speak for every one of us that bow drilling was definitely the biggest struggle, mentally especially.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
We've all thrown our bows to the ground.
I never saw you do that. Not once. You observed. I did it a few times.
Tossed it with love.
Gently placed it on the
Thank
ground
you, but I am
and
frustrated.
banished it. You go away.
So if you're out there looking in podcast land and you want some inexpensive bow drill sets, just come on to the field school and walk through the bushes about a 30-yard perimeter from where we're doing bow drill practice. And there's 600 sets there for you to choose from.
And 4 or 5 of them are mine.
I got at least 6 out there, man. Don't worry about it.
It's a struggle. I jokingly say that the thing with friction fire is the first 1,000 times you do it are the hardest.
Yeah.
Gets a lot easier after that, right? And it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek joke, but yeah, the
It's
fire
true,
gods
though.
make you pay.
Yes,
Sure,
they
you
do.
really got to pay your dues.
And this is of the environments around the United States, this kind of wet, cold, damp northern Maine climate is a wicked challenge.
Sure was.
So it's just harder here than in most places. I've done probably 1,000 hand drill fire coals in New Hampshire. And it's a viable thing there. And here, just a few hours away, the climate's different enough and damper and less species variation, right? It's often hard to find a lot of the good stocks up here because we're more of a boreal forest environment. But it's hard to do here to the point where it's not like a viable... even after doing it 1,000 times, maybe it's not a viable thing to rely on for lighting a fire. So
I never got a coal out of my
friction fire here is just hard. But when you get back down to the southwest, you just put the 2 sticks near each other, and they burst into each other.
I can testify.
There was a day early on when we introduced hand drill fires. There was a day where Ben and I were playing with some of the hand drill stocks, and both got a coal and we're continuing on, and then felt the wind shift, and it got damp, and within 5 minutes no matter what we did, couldn't get a coal.
Yeah.
It's hard.
The fire gods, the land up here just doesn't care.
No.
It is not going to cater to people, right? It's like, oh yeah, we'll have a May snowstorm. The hell with you. I don't
I
care.
was going to say, I think it's worse than that they don't care. They're amused by our suffering.
Yeah. The gods on Mount Olympus are snickering when we're trying to accomplish things here.
Is that in southern Maine?
Yeah. Mount Olympus is down near Catawba.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
South
Just
of
checking.
But you had asked what we had a particular challenge with. All the crafting stuff.
Yeah?
I had a hard time making a canoe paddle. My canoe paddle's the ugliest.
Well,
the one on the last trip.
It was the ugliest until the most recent
Yeah,
one.
right. Until the one that Kieran carved out with
The moose mallet.
Yeah, right. With his axe. Okay, so the rough cut with an axe was worse than mine.
And by axe, Kieran had a splitting maul.
axe. It was impressive to watch a guy with a splitting maul try to make a paddle. I would have just left it as a board personally and used that.
I don't know. He did it though.
Yeah,
I mean,
he
did it.
trucked
He
through
used
it, never complained.
And what a testament to that young man. Not one, didn't bitch once, didn't complain once.
No, he did not.
His hands are just like a study. In
He doesn't have
blistering,
hands; they're stumps.
right? It's just so rough on his body, but not once did he complain. Like, what a trooper!
Yeah.
I used it for a half hour, and I've been complaining since. So all the power to him.
You know, that's something else I appreciated about this particular makeup in the course is, you know, we had 2 guys that were late 30s, early 40s, and then 2 guys that weren't 20 yet. And I have to say that they kept right up with us in all of the stuff that we're supposed to be stronger at older men, and then surpassed us vastly, of course, in their younger strength and stamina.
I don't know if we're in the surpassing stage yet.
Oh,
but
yeah. But
it'll come.
I was impressed. I was impressed, that's for sure.
There's many of us.
I was impressed. But, you know, it restored my hope in the next generations and the possibilities that they have.
Wait, are you saying that your hope wasn't restored by the breakthrough hit Party in the USA?
Yes, it may have been crushed by that song. Actually,
I won't podcast land. I won't reference that song anymore. I apologize.
Thank you.
But it's a great song.
I'll start singing country songs if you do that.
Yeah. Well, that's all good.
Well,
so, go ahead.
Well, so if you guys have just done the Journeyman, if somebody was coming up here and wanting to do it, would you guys have any sort of insight or advice for somebody that's thinking about doing this?
Advice for future students.
Yeah.
There may be a few listening to this.
Yes. It is a lot of work, and it's supposed to be a lot of work. However, it's not daunting. It's very doable as long as you're just continuing to do little things every day and continuing through the process and kind of staying with it. It's challenging to stay focused on this for 9 weeks.
It is. It's hard.
Yes, it is.
So that's what I would say. You know, just stay focused and take little bites out of it every day, and you'll get it done.
Yep. Step by step.
Right.
Also, I'd say like the humorous environment of the guides, and everyone who comes here seems to be pretty happy, or I don't know, like easy to make laugh, and pair that with the constant immersion in nature. You know, the sounds, the songs of the birds kind of helps, because you will be frustrated at times, and you're going to have to put up with that with yourself. There's going to be lots of mental battles within, and I would say prepare for that.
Yeah.
Don't leave that aside and expect everything to be easy, especially if you're not used to going through hardships.
That's the advice? I thought it was going to be like get the Titanium Zombie Slayer 4000 knife
Also
and stuff
that.
like that.
Also that.
What was it? The
Combar Pro.
Pro.
Future students, if you bring a Combar Pro, if any of you bring a Combar Pro, I will personally drag you up to the top of the hill and make you leave.
No.
Well, what if everybody brings a Combar Pro? What are you going to do then?
I'm going to be wicked strong by the end of it because I'm going to be dragging a lot of people up the hill.
Yeah.
God, no.
So Ben Spencer found this Kickstarter thing for this. What is it, like a knife, axe, multi-tool,
right.
the Combar Pro, and
magazine.
I wouldn't even call it a tool.
I don't know. We laughed about it. We laughed about the video on it. There's
Yes.
like a guy supposedly like lost in the woods, and he hears a wolf howl behind him, and he grabs his Combar Pro and like
Threatens it. He threatens the
He's
wolf
got
with
like
a shovel.
He's got a new jacked up pickup truck, right? Like if a wolf comes, I don't know, maybe get in your pickup truck and drive off. Nope, he reaches for the thing. and
Pro.
he's going to attack the wolf, right?
With a spade.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Please don't bring a Combar
He's
Pro.
going to shovel it to death. That's good stuff right there.
Other advice.
I hope they didn't want to be a sponsor.
Yeah.
Examine what Tim says very clearly to determine whether he's kidding or not.
Oh, that's a skill.
As a guy who's been up here and working with Tim for a little while, it's impossible. You can't. That's an insurmountable achievement.
Maybe. Perhaps.
Exactly. Case in point.
Oh, man.
Good stuff. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, well, I think that kind of about wraps up our topics for this this episode. But, I just wanted to say thanks to you guys for humoring us and coming on and sharing some of your thoughts, experiences, and insights with our podcast audience. I'm sure they'll get a lot out of it. And just on a more personal note, it's just, I've had an absolute blast with you guys for the last 9 weeks. And thank you for always being there with, laughs and humor and, fun. And, as students, you get to choose. If you're going to a school, you get to choose which school you go to, right? As instructors, we don't get to choose who our students are. So it's kind of we're rolling the dice each time and just fingers crossed, hoping that the people who show up kind of get what we're trying to do and just get it in general. And you guys definitely get it. And, I think we had a lot of really cheap laughs over the last 9 weeks. And hopefully, you learned stuff that was worthwhile and will continue to serve you whether you work in the outdoor industry or not. Just thank you for the fun, the humor, the camaraderie, and, wish you the best. And if you want to get in touch with these guys and find out what their experience here was really like, we're going to be putting up a new page on our website honoring and listing all the people who've achieved Journeyman Guide status, which is our internal certification program. It's a very significant amount of work that these guys completed in order to achieve that. And we're going to list their names, and if they so desire, we'll hot link it to whatever they want, if you guys have websites or contact info or whatever. So, awesome.
I'd like to piggyback on what Tim was just saying about having people that get it. Our mutual friend and acquaintance, Ray Rizzi, was in a documentary, and in that he has a line that kind of struck me, which was talking about if you take 10 people out and 2 people get it, that makes it worth it. And this semester, every student here got it, and that was kind of amazing to me. Like having a group of people that, there was no management of anything. It was just people that understood what we were here for and wanted to be involved in it as much as they could. And that was a great experience for me. So again, Tim's already said thank you, but thank you guys as well from me. And I'm sure Ben feels the same.
Yeah.
I had a good time, man. And I appreciate the level of instruction here.
Nice.
Second that. Very inspiring.
So that wraps up this episode in a day and a half. It's Thursday night. Saturday morning, Christopher and I are jumping in the truck with a couple other guys and headed up to the Gaspé Peninsula in Quebec, and we're going to run the Bonaventure River, and we'll bring the audio recorder. Hopefully we'll be recording a podcast in the field. We'll be joined by a couple of guys from Karamat Wilderness Ways in Alberta, Dragon Uzelac and Kelly Harleton. Blake Towsley out of New Brunswick will be there, as well as our own Colin Clifford, who you know from a past episode of the podcast, and Frank Grindrod, an old friend of mine who runs earthwork programs down in Massachusetts. So we're doing a kind of an instructors or guides, sort of like a retreat, but just a river trip. And so we're really looking forward to that. But now we've got to go because we've got to plan menus and start packing stuff for that. Mm-hmm. So you'll hear about that in a future episode. Again, as always, if you enjoyed this podcast, you think it's worthwhile, you didn't completely waste an hour of your time or a half hour or whatever time we're at, then please leave us a review wherever you listen to this, iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or wherever. Every little review helps, and we'll be back at you with another podcast before too long. So from the Guide Shack on a rainy June night, have a good one.